You might recognize Tim Allen from his iconic roles in Home Improvement and Toy Story, but here is something you probably did not anticipate. He actually harbored some serious frustration with one of his own co-stars. Behind the laughter and his friendly on-screen persona, Tim Allen experienced genuine tension with someone he had collaborated with for years. Who might that be? Surprisingly, it is not who you would initially guess. Their professional relationship deteriorated from amicable to decidedly rocky, filled with misunderstandings, feelings of betrayal, and significant clashes over their careers. Are you intrigued yet? Let us explore the unexpected story of Tim Allen and the co-star he never quite meshed with. Tim Allen generally gets along with everyone. Well, almost everyone. Hollywood is filled with famous friendships. Some are genuine, while others are just excellent acting. But have you ever considered what occurs when two co-stars simply do not connect? Despite being one of the most likable personalities in show business, Tim Allen apparently had one co-star he could not tolerate. Now, do not misunderstand. Allen has built numerous solid friendships over his decades-long career. Take Tom Hanks, for example. Even though they recorded their Toy Story lines separately, they maintain nothing but mutual respect. If Woody and Buzz can get along in real life, truly anything is possible. Then there is Nancy Travis, his on-screen wife in Last Man Standing. Their chemistry was so compelling that Allen once joked they had a perfect marriage, minus all the complicated parts. Additionally, we cannot overlook Richard Karn, his reliable sidekick Al Borland from Home Improvement. Those two were so close they even reunited years later for the History Channel's Assembly Required. Given all these positive relationships, who was the one co-star who rubbed Allen the wrong way? What made their working dynamic so strained? Keep reading, because this story is just becoming interesting. What happens when a stand-up comedian suddenly becomes the star of a hit television show? The transition is not always smooth. Before Tim Allen became the beloved Tim, the Toolman Taylor, he was grinding it out in the unpredictable world of stand-up comedy. Moving from late-night comedy clubs to leading a primetime sitcom was not exactly a seamless shift. And it is safe to say that not everyone on set found his intense drive as amusing as his audience did. Imagine being accustomed to calling all the shots on stage and suddenly having to collaborate with writers, producers, and an entire cast that included child actors. It might sound fun, but for Allen, this shift represented a steep learning curve. The pressure to make Home Improvement a success meant he took things very seriously, sometimes too seriously. Patricia Richardson, who played his on-screen wife, Jill Taylor, later admitted that while their chemistry was great on camera, things could become a little tense behind the scenes. Tim was incredibly passionate about the show, she once shared, but sometimes that passion came across as intensity, and it was not always easy. In other words, when Tim had an idea, you definitely knew about it. Allen possessed a strong sense of what was funny, and if a joke did not land, he was not shy about voicing his opinion. One former writer recalled, Tim knew exactly what worked. If a joke bombed, you would find out immediately. This approach was great for comedy, but maybe not so great for overall workplace harmony. Some appreciated his directness, while others probably wished he would take up meditation. As the show's popularity exploded, so did Allen's influence. He was no longer just the lead actor. He was increasingly calling the shots. And although his instincts helped shape Home Improvement into a massive success, not everyone was thrilled with his growing control. The writers, in particular, sometimes found themselves at odds with their star. When a comedian starts rewriting scripts, you know things are getting interesting. But believe it or not, these early clashes were merely a warm-up act. The real behind-the-scenes drama was still to come, a situation that would test Allen's patience, challenge his leadership, and create one of his most complicated professional relationships yet. Stay tuned, because this story is far from over. Have you ever wondered what happens when a hit TV show transforms its cast into overnight superstars? Let us discuss Home Improvement, one of the biggest shows of the 1990s. On the surface, it looked like the perfect family, but behind the scenes, things were not always so smooth. For Tim Allen, the show was a complete game-changer. One day, he was cracking jokes on stage, and the next, he was the face of one of America's favorite sitcoms. This opened doors to Hollywood blockbusters like The Santa Claus and Toy Story, making him a household name. But with great success comes a great deal of unexpected chaos. Try to picture being a teenager and suddenly having your face on every magazine cover. That was the reality for Jonathan Taylor Thomas. He, along with his on-screen brothers Zachary Ty Bryan and Taron Noah Smith, became instant stars. Fans sent thousands of letters, and JTT probably had more posters in teenage bedrooms than the Backstreet Boys. However, with fame came new opportunities, and soon the young stars had packed schedules filled with movie roles and other gigs. Tim Allen, who had spent years hustling to achieve his own success, sometimes struggled with this new reality. "These kids do not know how lucky they are," he reportedly vented to a crew member. Watching teenagers receive opportunities he had fought years for could feel like watching someone win the lottery on their first ticket. As the show continued, cracks began to show. When actors start getting calls for movies, voice work, and other TV shows, their priorities understandably shift. While Allen remained laser-focused on Home Improvement, some of his co-stars had their sights set on bigger things. And let us be honest, if Hollywood came knocking with a significant film role, who would not be tempted? This shift created some behind-the-scenes tension, especially between Allen and one particular co-star who was eager to branch out. It was like being in a group project where one person is fully committed and the others are already thinking about their next big thing. On TV, the Home Improvement family seemed tight-knit, but off-screen, let us just say it was not all backyard fence talks and family dinners. As the seasons progressed, egos clashed, schedules conflicted, and what once felt like a dream job started feeling more like a difficult juggling act. So, was Home Improvement doomed from the start? Or was this simply the natural life cycle of a hit show? If social media had existed back then, we likely would have seen some cryptic tweets and passive-aggressive Instagram stories. One thing is certain: what happens behind the scenes is often far more interesting than what we see on screen. Have you ever watched a show and thought, "This is too perfect, what is really going on behind the scenes?" Well, behind the cameras of Home Improvement, things were not as picture-perfect as they appeared. If the cast's on-screen chemistry looked effortless, trust me, some profound behind-the-scenes moments made it anything but. Take Allen, for example. The guy is a legend, but he also had very concrete ideas about how every scene should play out. He was the perfectionist of all perfectionists. If a joke did not land just right, guess what? They would redo it again and again and again. According to one director, Tim had a vision and would make them keep going until that joke really worked. That sounds like dedication, right? But it could also be exhausting. Imagine being part of the crew and thinking, is this the 10th take or the 20th? I have lost count. And then there was the writer's room. As Tim's influence grew, so did his ideas about what the show should be. If a storyline did not align with his vision, that script was out. One writer even mentioned that entire scripts were rewritten because Tim did not feel it. Talk about creative control. Imagine pouring hours into something only to have it tossed out because someone wanted it a little different. No pressure, right? But it was not just the crew and writers feeling the heat. The cast, while pretending to be the perfect tight-knit family, was dealing with their own drama off-screen. Patricia Richardson, aka Jill Taylor, admitted that while they looked like the ideal TV family, there were days when they barely spoke. It sounds like a family reunion waiting to happen. Some days they got along like old pals, and others, well, they just showed up, did their job, and went home. No warm, fuzzy moments to see there. Despite all this, Home Improvement went on to become one of the most beloved sitcoms ever. Viewers had no idea what was happening behind the curtain. They saw the laughs, the perfect family moments, and the never-ending home improvement projects. But beneath it all lay professional clashes, creative disagreements, and a relationship that eventually crumbled beyond repair. So, the next time you are watching a show, ask yourself, what drama is happening off-camera that I am not seeing? Trust me, it is always more interesting than what makes it onto the screen. A few years after Home Improvement wrapped, Tim Allen's former co-stars started sharing their behind-the-scenes stories, and let me tell you, it has been an eye-opening ride. Working with Tim was not always as picture-perfect as the family sitcom made it look. Curious about what was really going down off-camera? Stay with me. First up, we have Patricia Richardson, who played Tim's on-screen wife for 8 seasons. She is the most diplomatic of the bunch. In a 2020 interview, she admitted that while they had great chemistry, there were definitely some tense moments. Tim is intense about his work, she said, which is code for, he takes his job very seriously, and sometimes that makes things a little uncomfortable. However, despite a significant pay gap, she left before the 9th season because of it, Patricia still defended Tim. "He made me laugh every day," she said, adding that he had his flaws but was never inappropriate. So, was Tim a perfectionist trying to make the show great, or was he a bit of a drama king behind the scenes? Then there is Casey Wilson, who worked with Tim on the Santa Clauses. Talk about a 180. Casey had a completely different experience. She did not hold back, calling her time with Tim the single worst experience I have ever had with a co-star. Yikes. She remembers him complaining about her stepping on his lines and being dismissive and rude throughout their time together. "It was so uncomfortable," she said. "He treated me like I was the help, not a fellow actor." So, was Tim just in a bad mood that day, or was there a whole different side to him that we had never seen? Now, Richard Karn, who played Al Borland, had a more positive spin on things. He has worked with Tim for years and seems to appreciate Tim's honesty, even if it was not always wrapped in a bow. "Tim always lets you know where you stand," he said.